Good morning, goddammit. Piss and Vinegar day 86 or 85. Chest day, chest and triceps, and today I'm maxing out on my bench press. I was supposed to do this last week, but I forgot, so doing it today. And it didn't go. It went better than I thought it was, or about the same. Basically it went as good as I thought it was going to go, or maybe as bad as I thought it would go. I haven't bench pressed in a long time, or at least when I was benching, I did it for like 3 weeks with the high intensity, and I don't like bench pressing, especially for reps, because it just doesn't really hit my chest that much. Although I ended up kind of stumbling across a way of fixing that later in this video, but what I'm doing essentially for this series is incline pressing and dips, and then the proxy strength that I get from those movements, I want to see how much that improves my bench press. There's no way it'll improve my bench press as much as actually just bench pressing will improve it, especially high frequency, high volume bench presses that like give you neurological adaptations and get you really efficient at the movement. But I want to see how much stronger it will get just simply from bulking and doing other pressing variations. And so far I feel like I don't know how much stronger it's gotten, because I haven't done a 1 rep max bench press in a very, very long time. Last time I did 1 rep max bench press, I was like 95 kilos and it was like 130. Today I'm 85-ish, and you'll see where I get. It's probably a bodyweight rep, or bodyweight PR, because last time I was 85 kilos, fuck, I can't remember last time I was 85 kilos. Probably I would have been 16, and when I was 16, I was decline benching 100 kilos for like 1 or 2, but decline press is much easier. I'd imagine 16-year-old version of me could probably press maybe 95 kilos for a 1 rep max. Albeit with shitty technique. So last time I was 86 kilos, I was 16, I was probably bench and pressing 95. So really haven't made a whole lot of progress since then. I haven't. Like, you know, when I was about 21, when I was 107 kilos, my best was 165 kilos. But again, weight moves weight. That doesn't mean shit, because I am about 22 kilos heavier or lighter right now. But anyway, yeah, so we'll get onto the 1 rep max, and then hopefully in a few months from now, I'll do it again with just the incline presses and stuff and see if it goes up. Hopefully, I'm hoping for maybe 130. Hell, it might even be a 3-plate bench. 140 would be pretty cool by the end of this bulk if I can. And I might even be able to do some bench pressing before that to get better at it, which you'll see later in the video. I'll get into that. So just warming up. One of the 1 rep maxes, my hips came off the bench heaps, and I didn't count it. The hips are coming off just like ever so slightly on the maxes, and for me, I don't really give a shit. Like, it's not a fucking competition. I'm not getting like red lights. So if my hips come like an inch or 2 off the bench, it doesn't really mean a big deal for me. Like this one here, my hips came off an inch, just because I'm not very technically efficient anymore. Like my technique's kind of sloppy. And all the cues aren't quite in my subconscious anymore. So this is the big 1 rep max. This is 115 kilos. Hips come off a little bit, so give or take, but realistically, I didn't even need my hips to come off to get this one. It moved pretty smooth, really. Honestly, if my technique was on point every single time, I feel like I would have had 117, 120. This is 117, and I kind of just misgrooved, and thus my hips had to come off in order to really make sure I got the rep. But yeah, I feel like I probably have 120 in me if I really didn't do so many like warm-up 1 rep maxes and have my technique honed in. But again, it's sparking my ego a bit. It's like, oh man, I'm bulking. Like, why don't I get my bench press back up? Like, I want to get my bench to 3 plates or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, bench doesn't really do much for me as far as hypertrophy wise. Yeah, my hips come way off the bench there, so that doesn't count. Not even close. It doesn't do much for me in hypertrophy, and you'll see here, I decided to do like a heavy back off set to see how it would feel. And when I do heavy presses for reps, like after a rep or 2, my right shoulder just starts to lose all sense of stability. And like that rep was super easy, nothing wrong with it. That rep felt pretty easy. And then like somewhere around here, it's just like, shoulder just starts feeling really fucking wobbly. And this last rep, it just starts to really not feel right, and maybe you can't even see it, but like, it just doesn't feel right. So what I decided to do is experiment. I did a set of pec deck flies, or this like fucking cable pec fly pullover, whatever the fuck machine I've built here, pre-exhaust my chest for one. So make sure that the chest is totally pre-exhausted, so the shoulders and triceps are the last thing to fail. So pre-exhaust it, and this is not great for the ego because when you bench press, you want to do these heavy, grinding reps with the most weight you can. But again, for me, with that shoulder instability, that's just not, it's not going to work. I can't feel my pecs. It feels not so comfortable. Potentially get some tweaks for the next few days if I do these heavy sets. And ideally, you do volume in order to get more neurological adaptations, but I'm high intensity, so fuck all that shit. I'm going to let the ego aside, pre-exhaust my pecs with this movement here, and then do flat barbell bench press every other week. So still going to do my incline dumbbell press as my main strength movement because I much prefer that. It's better for hypertrophy. It feels really good. There's no pain, etc. And then on the secondary movement where I normally do dips sometimes, or every other week rather, I'll do a bench press after pre-exhausting it first with this movement. So you'll see in a second I made a few tweaks to the bench press, including this pre-exhaustion, and it actually felt really good for a first time in my life. Like, I've always bench pressed out of ego, not out of want for muscle size, because it doesn't give me much muscle size. But through generally thinking about it logically, I thought, all right, pre-exhaust the chest, and then secondly, take a cue from Mike Mensa. The great Mike Mensa often said there is no point to doing wide grip bench press as it makes no biomechanical sense, and it's true. The function of the chest is to adduct your arms across your body. The closer your grip is, the closer you are to adducting, thus the chest contracts better. So typically the idea is close grip bench press like this is for your triceps. But for one, I'm already very tricep heavy, and two, I just have different leverages and biomechanics to everybody else. Everyone's different. So for me, I just decided, fuck it, I'll try Mike Mensa's idea. I'll do closer grip, I'll do a real close grip bench, and I'll go for higher reps. I'll just go really high reps. That way my shoulder and my pecs, shoulders and my triceps and my shoulder instability aren't the limiting factor, and I'll take higher reps to failure. So I did like 15 or 16 reps with 60, which is fuck all, but because I pre-exhausted and I already did 1 rep maxes, this is perfectly fine amount of weight to get like a moderate amount of reps. And I felt heaps in my pecs. So in order to really feel my pecs, all I simply had to do on the bench press was pre-exhaust with a pec deck and then do close grip, high rep bench press. And that felt really good. Like, my pecs were fucking shredded and pumped. So cool little revelation here today. And I'll be continuing to do flat barbell bench press on every other week instead of a dip. And I might even get rid of the dips, because honestly that felt better than the dips. So for the lower mid chest, that might be the way to go. I'll give dips a few more weeks, see how they feel, but honestly, with my dip bar being so unstable and generally it not being that great for my shoulders and not great for really feeling my chest all that much, it might be that the fabled bench press that always gave me issues we can have a stable relationship from now on. And the other thing I noticed today was that my bench is just really quite narrow, or at least it's narrow for me. I have a pretty big back, pretty wide shoulders, because I've been lifting for a long time, or a while now, and thus they're not really designed. I don't think these benches are necessarily designed for big backed individuals. You'd think they would be, but really they're designed for the general populace. So it's a little bit narrow, which gives me a bit of instability from the sides. My shoulders can kind of rotate back and forth over the edge of the bench. Also, something's fucking loose in the bench, and it just kind of rocks back and forth. So that might actually be really tying into part of why it feels so unstable. So I might buy a new flat barbell bench press bench, a wider, more stable one, more expensive, more padded, whatever. And that might be the go-to to make my bench press a bit smoother. Tricep extensions felt really strong today. I ended up getting 40 kilos for 10 reps pretty convincingly. One of the things I wanted to mention, which it's gone now, but on the bench, you might have seen that I had resistance bands all over the bench. That's a little tidbit that I came up with, likely found from a powerlifter, and thinking now that I came up with it, but I probably didn't, where you just put the bands over the bench, and that way when you get into a really heavy arch and a leg drive and you're really pushing for your legs on the bench, you don't slip upwards the bench, you just stay in place. So you get more traction, you get more stability, and you can leg drive harder without flying off the bench. So that's a little tidbit. if you're having a hard time staying on the bench on your bench presses, put those bands on the bench, and that will keep you in place. So I do two long bands, long ways, and then two short booty bands, or like glute adduction or abduction bands, short ways, and that really gets me stable on the bench. So yeah, if you're unstable on your bench, or slipping off the bench rather, put those on the bench, and it will help tremendously. So yeah, overall not a bad session, decent revelation. I didn't do my incline presses because there was no real point. After doing a 1 rep max, or like a few 1 rep maxes, and then also doing a really hardcore burnout set for the bench press, I just didn't really see the need for the incline press, or I didn't really want to do it because you never know with injuries. You don't want to overdo high intensity training. If you've done a bunch of 1 rep maxes, you don't want to then go into doing a bunch of sets to max on higher reps, potentially injuring yourself. And I wouldn't have got the same amount of reps anyway, which is not good psychologically for me. So next week I'll get back to that, but today I just did the bench press. And yeah, that was basically it. Hopefully by the end of this bulk, I'll be at a almost 3-plate bench, or a 130 kilo bench press, or maybe even beyond that. Who knows? If I start bench pressing now every other week, it's not that much volume or frequency or fuck all in general to really give me a great neurological adaptation boost, but it might be what is required to get that big fabled 315 or 140 kilo bench press, which I've done before, but I've never done it this body weight. So it'd be cool to be able to get that at 85 kilos or so. And then maybe next bulk, depending on where I end up at the end of that bulk, maybe I'll get back to my previous big 165 kilo bench, but at a far lighter weight. I won't be getting back up to 107 probably ever again, because my height and bone structure just won't hold that unless I just like jump on a shit ton of gear. Yeah, doing a bit of posing, triceps and everything are looking pretty freaky at the moment. I'm really happy with these gains that I'm getting throughout this bulk. The delts, the back, and the triceps are noticeably growing quite a lot. Some other areas not so much. My chest a little bit, but again, it's a shitty area for me. Biceps aren't really budging a hell of a lot, which is fine because my biceps are already pretty gifted from a few angles. So really getting a big back, traps, and triceps would be probably really cool for this bulk. I don't want to focus on trying to get everything too big at the same time, because you can only get so many things big, especially when you aren't enhanced. But yeah, by the end of this bulk, hopefully the main things will be bigger traps, huge delts, huge back, and then next bulk I might focus on other things like chest and arms, etc. I mean, obviously I don't focus on things because everything gets hit equally. That's part of the perfection of high intensity training, but really mentally focusing on trying to get those as big as I can. Anyway, see you guys tomorrow for more Piss and Vinegar. Bye.